This was Richard Nixon, the 37th President of the United States. On an August evening in 1971, he announced a bold move. He ended the dollar's link to gold and imposed a 10% import surcharge. This wasn't just a routine change. It dismantled the gold standard, a system tying global economies to gold for over a century. With that, the dollar floated freely, no longer tethered to precious metal. But what led Nixon to this drastic step? Why did he upend the world's faith in gold? (1821) marked the dawn of a monetary experiment. Britain launched the gold standard, tying paper money to gold. The idea was simple yet brilliant. Every banknote could be swapped for gold anytime. 6 pounds equaled 1 ounce, or 8 taels of gold. France joined in, pegging 30 francs to the same ounce. This locked exchange rates, 1 pound traded for 5 francs, creating a rock-solid system. Trade boomed globally because everyone trusted the setup. Governments couldn't print cash without gold in the vault, so inflation stayed tame. Imagine a world where money felt as real as the metal it promised. Sounds perfect, right? Well, not for long. In 1914, World War I began and turned the world upside down. Countries suddenly needed a lot of money to pay for soldiers, weapons, and supplies. But back then, most countries used the gold standard, which meant they could only print money if they had enough gold to back it up. This system was rigid. It had strict rules and no flexibility. Germany was the first to break those rules. Just days after going to war, it stopped tying its money to gold and started printing huge amounts of cash. The money supply jumped from 13 billion marks to 60 billion by the end of the war. Germany paid for the war with paper, not gold. Other countries saw this and panicked. The US tried to stay disciplined by asking citizens to buy war bonds, but it was hard to compete with Germany's free-flowing money. Eventually, more countries dropped or bent the gold standard to survive the war. Britain faced a nightmare. Enemy nations demanded gold for pounds, draining reserves while arming foes. The cracks widened. 1918 ended the war, but the gold standard limped on. In 1922, world leaders met in Italy, hoping to bring it back to life. What came out was a new version, the gold exchange standard. It was like a remix of the old system. Now only the US dollar and British pound were tied directly to gold. Other countries linked their money to those two instead. The dream was to bring back the stability of the good old days. But the world had changed. After the war, most nations didn't have enough gold to fully support their money. The promise of stability feels comforting in peaceful times. But what happens when the next storm hits and countries need flexibility? Gold doesn't bend, it breaks. After World War I, Europe was wounded, but the US came out stronger. Its economy surged into the roaring 20s, an era of booming factories, fast cars, and crackling radios. Credit was easy, confidence was high. Banks offered loans to anyone chasing quick riches. The top 30 companies shot from 63 points in 1921 to 381 by September 1929. People borrowed money, even mortgaged their homes, just to buy stocks. Banks and businesses joined the gamble. Then the Federal Reserve stepped in, hiking interest rates to cool the frenzy. It backfired. October 24th. Back Thursday saw 12.9 million shares dumped in panic. October 29th topped it with 16 million traded, wiping out fortunes overnight. Banks crumbled. 650 failed in 1929, over 1,300 by 1930. People rushed to pull out their savings, but the money was already gone. Even giants like the Bank of New York fell in 1931, losing $200 million in deposits. Unemployment hit 25.59% by 1933. Global GDP crashed 15% from 1929 to 1932. Why so bad? Gold tied the Fed's hands. No extra money could flow without more metal. A small dip became the Great Depression. Rigidity turned deadly. 1933 offered a lifeline. President Franklin Roosevelt launched the New Deal, dumping the gold standard. The United States pumped cash into jobs and banks, unshackled from gold's limits. June saw the dollar drop in value, but the economy roared back. 3 months of record recovery. Gold's stability had choked progress. Abandoning it unleashed growth. 1944 gathered 44 nations in the United States to rebuild after World War II. The war had wrecked economies, but the dollar stood tall, with the United States holding nearly 75% of the world's gold. The Bretton Woods system emerged. 1 ounce of gold cost $35. Only dollars swapped for gold. Other currencies traded for dollars. The International Monetary Fund policed it, keeping exchange rates within a tight 1% range. Nations chipped in funds to cushion shocks. A lesson from 1929. For nearly 30 years, it worked. 1965 revealed flaws. France and Spain swapped piles of dollars for gold, slashing United States reserves from 20,000 tons in 1950 to 9,000 by 1971. Why? Cold War spending, especially Vietnam, soared. The United States printed dollars beyond its gold stash, flooding the world. Allies fumed. Charles de Gaulle demanded a return to pure gold. Japan played dirty too, devaluing the yen in the 1960s, undercut American goods. By 1971, United States exports tanked and trade deficits ballooned. 1971 sealed the fate. August 15th saw Richard Nixon suspend dollar-to-gold conversion. The United States floated the dollar, taxing imports 10% to fight deficits. Britain and France followed, unshackling their currencies. Bretton Woods died. Gold reserves couldn't match the dollar swirling globally. Too much paper, too little metal. The system collapsed under its own weight. Today, currencies dance to market tunes, not gold's rigid beat. The gold standard promised trust. £6 for an ounce, $35 for the same. It delivered stability until the world outgrew it. 1914 showed war's chaos. 1929 proved its danger. 1971 confirmed its limits. Every collapse asked, can money stay solid in a fluid world? Gold couldn't keep up. Yet its ghost lingers. Some still dream of its return.